What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I am very excited for today's episode. I think this one is going to hit a little bit differently for you. I've been sitting on this topic for quite some time now because I really want to make sure that I do this conversation justice. I have lived both sides of the things that we're going to talk about today, and truthfully, I'm still walking this walk. I'm still learning how to master some of this in real time. I think a lot of high achieving women always are in different seasons of their life, because today we are talking about burnout, and not in the way that most wellness influencers are going to talk about it. I'm not here to convince you that, rest is productive or that you need to do more self-care or that you need to slow down your life. Frankly, I hope that this conversation reminds you that you don't have to do those things while still protecting your peace and taking care of your body. So today I really want to dive deep and uncover the root causes of burnout, uncover what is causing the disconnection that you're feeling between, looking like you have everything all together, looking successful on the outside, but not feeling fulfilled or successful internally. Why you could be doing everything right when it comes to your health or your body, yet you still feel completely off, and most importantly, how to address it without feeling like you are giving up on your big ambitions or just going soft. So I want to start off this conversation by calling out something that I think doesn't get really talked about enough. I think that there's two different forms of burnout that women experience. Some women burn out because you're running on empty. You have completely forgotten that you exist. You've completely put yourself on the back burner. You wake up and you're immediately thinking about your to-do list, your career, your relationships, your family, your kids, whoever is going to need you that day. That's who you're thinking about. You're not eating well. You're not moving in a way that actually feels good for your body. You're not sleeping enough. You're running on caffeine and willpower, and you just keep pushing through, telling yourself that you'll take care of yourself when life slows down, but things are never going to slow down, sister. So that is avatar number one. That is root cause of burnout number one. Number two is the woman who's actually trying. You're doing all the things right. You're working out, you're eating clean, you're tracking your food, you're taking the supplements, you're doing all the things that you feel like you're supposed to do, and nothing's working. So it's leaving you feeling exhausted, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You've been at this for months, not seeing the results that you were promised. Or maybe you do look fine, but you don't feel like yourself anymore. And that specific kind of exhaustion, that doing everything right and still feeling like you're failing exhaustion, truthfully might be the even more defeating version because you don't even know what the next solution is. So if you've recognized yourself in either of these patterns, hi, you're in the right place. I'm super excited for today's episode. And although these situations may look quite different on the surface, underneath, they both have something in common. Both of these types of women are operating well beyond your capacity. You've hit this ceiling. And the reason that you've hit a ceiling looks different, but the solution looks the same. So burnout, at the end of the day, is a very physiological thing where your body hits its capacity. And I don't think that we give it enough credit. It's not just being tired. It's not just being stressed. It happens when the demands on your system chronically exceed your ability to recover from those demands. That's it. Like, that is the gap. It's a gap between your outputs and your inputs. And your body does not distinguish between all these different stressors or inputs that are going on. It doesn't distinguish between work stress or relationship stress or a hard workout or not sleeping enough or under eating or over caffeinating or the emotional stressors that you carry. To your body, it is all reading as stress. It is all requiring the same cortisol response. It's all triggering that fight or flight mode. It is all depleting your body to nothing. So when people ask me, like, why am I burnt out? Like, I'm not really even that stressed at work right now. It's because burnout is cumulative. It doesn't care where that load is coming from. It is just the total load that you have been accumulating. And it's not about how stressed you are right now, but it's how stressed have you been for the past 5 to 10 years. That's what you are currently experiencing in this moment. Most women are carrying way, way more than you realize. And you've been carrying it for way, way longer than you realize. To the point where, living in this constant state of depletion and stress and burnout has become your new normal. This was me. Like, I didn't really experience the full detrimental side effects of what I was doing to my body until like 2022 timeframe when my dad passed away. And it really just took all the things that had been accumulating over time. And it was like the last straw that completely burnt me out. It's like the last like drip of gas that needed to be put on the fire for it to just go up in flames. But that fire was building for years before then. Like my eating disorder from like 2017 to 2019. Then in 2020, or actually 2021, competing in my bikini competition. On top of that, 2020, scaling a business to multiple six figures at age 23, year one. Like that was so much stress and pressure and burden to carry that I wasn't supporting. I didn't have the capacity for it, to go back to the beginning of this conversation. So the thing about burnout is it really does accumulate quietly. And then one day you'll feel it all at once. And that was really like 2022 when my dad passed away, and it all just kind of hit a tipping point for me. We often talk about burnout like it's something that just happens to you. Like you just hit a wall and now you're stuck. But I want you to start to think about it differently. I want you to start to think about it as if your capacity is just overflowing. Your ability to handle stress, your ability to show up fully, your ability to perform at a high level, to do the things that you love, to work out in the way that you want. This is what you need to have capacity for. Think of it as a bucket, right? Your bucket is overflowing, and or your bucket is too small for what you're trying to carry. And I think that's really where I want to flip the script in today's podcast episode for you, is that a lot of people try to heal burnout by reducing or removing what's going into that bucket. A very valid approach, and I think for a lot of people that is part of the approach and part of what's required. But I want us to talk about this differently. I want us to talk about this, about how do you expand your container to have greater capacity to be able to hold all of the things that you want to do while still performing at a high level and feeling like a badass doing it. That is where we play the long game here, especially for high achievers. That's what lets you be able to eventually carry more without sacrificing or costing your own internal health or well-being. Because your capacity, it's really just built through the basics. It's built through real food, proper nutrition, enough of it, sleeping, movement that doesn't trash your system, nervous system regulation, managing your emotions in a way that's not completely suppressing or avoiding them. And what I see all of the time with clients and in my practice is that a lot of the habits that women think are building their health and building this capacity are actually the ones adding to their stress load. The 5 a.m. workouts on 4 hours of sleep, the aggressive calorie deficits while working 12 plus hour days, the high intensity training 6 days a week when your body is already running on fumes, like your battery is also already empty. These things on the surface, they feel productive, and I get it. They feel like discipline. I've been there. But physiologically, they are pulling from very low reserves that are already empty, and they're not building your resilience. They are just compounding to this burnout problem that you're experiencing. And yeah, I know this because I've worked with enough women to see this pattern clearly. I've been this woman. I've been doing all of the right things and feeling worse and worse and having absolutely no idea why. That's usually right around the point where most clients find me. And when I work with clients, the first thing that we really focus on is this foundation, is rebuilding your capacity. It's not all the sexy stuff. It's not necessarily, going and running labs or doing these like deep, intense protocols. It's really just answering the simple questions of like, are you eating enough to support all the demands that you're putting on your body? Are you eating in a way that supports your hormones and your energy levels? Are you sleeping enough? Is your nervous system constantly in fight or flight? What is your workout routine? Is that building you up or is it burning you out? Because you cannot build a high performance life in the way that you want, or You cannot build a high performance physique in the way that you want on a broken foundation or with limited capacity. Now, on the same token, I also believe that you cannot build a high level life while just chasing balance either. And that's most women's or most people's solution to burnout is, oh, well, you just have to be more balanced. And honestly, that's actually the mistake I made. Like for a couple years, especially after my competition and everything that followed that, I tried to keep everything in my life performing at the same level. At the same time that my body was desperately asking me to slow down and really pour into my health. And because I kept trying to balance everything across the board, my relationship, my career, and my fitness goals, instead of actually choosing what my body needed right now, instead of choosing what was like begging for my attention, eventually all of it across the board suffered anyway. Like the one bucket that I kept refusing to fill, which was my health, started to quietly drain all the other buckets, my career, my business, my relationship. And the hard thing to admit here is I genuinely thought that I was filling my health bucket. I thought that I was the most health-focused person in the room. I was a health coach at the time running a very, very successful health coaching business. I thought that the workouts I was doing and the clean eating that I was doing and pushing through really meant that I was taking care of myself, that I was disciplined, that I was showing up, that I was a quote unquote high performer. But there's a difference between performing your health and actually building it. And I see this pattern constantly in the women that I work with. You're trying to give equal energy to everything in your life, and it's leaving you feeling like you're always falling behind, like you're always failing at something. You're never fully present in one area because you're spread so thin across them all trying to find balance. You're not actually balanced. You're just exhausted in every direction. And I think chasing balance is actually part of why so many women stay burned out, because it puts you in like this permanent state of catch up. The second one area of your life gets more demanding, a big project at work, a hard season in your relationship, a health issue that needs your attention, family situations. Balance then tells you that you're failing everywhere else. And so it just turns into this vicious cycle. It turns into like all of these natural seasons of life that are going to happen, evidence that you're doing something wrong, that you're constantly falling short somewhere. And I felt that. I felt that guilt. And that guilt turns into a stress response, literally adding more to your physiological load by chasing an expectation of quote unquote balance that simply does not exist in the first place. So when we take the bucket analogy that I was using earlier here to explain how I approach balance now, because yeah, your body has like your body's capacity is a bucket. Keeping that bucket, and now let's zoom out and recognize that multiple areas of your life each have their own bucket. Not just your body, but like your whole life, your health, your relationships, your work, your finances, your faith, your personal growth. Like whatever it is that matters to you, those are your different buckets. And balance implies that all of those buckets should be equally full at all times. Again, honestly, that is not how life works. That is not how success gets built either, right? You won't be successful by having balance across the board. You need to, whatever it is that you're chasing in whatever season of your life, whether it's a time that you're really pouring into your career, it's a time that you're really pouring into your relationship, it's a time that you're really pouring into building your family, it's a time that you're really pouring into your health goals, they're going to be demanding more of you than the other areas. And if you continue to try to give equal effort everywhere, it's going to spread you thin and you're not going to accomplish what it is that you really want. There are going to be seasons where work is going to require more, where your relationship needs more attention and presence, where your health has to be the priority because your body is asking for it and you don't really have any other choice. That is not imbalance. That is just how life moves and how life works. And so the goal is not to keep every bucket equally full. The goal is to be intentional about which buckets are getting more of you. Which ones are you actively prioritizing? Which ones are you actively filling up? And while you're actively filling up one bucket, the key to this is to make sure that the other buckets don't get empty, that they stay just full enough for you to be fulfilled. Which means while you're still, focusing on your health goals, Your relationships aren't completely running dry. They're not getting completely neglected. You're pouring into them enough for them to stay full enough for you to stay fulfilled. Even while you're prioritizing a really big push in your career, your health bucket isn't getting put to the back burner. You're still prioritizing the things that you need to take care of yourself, to have the capacity that you need to show up at a high level to all the things that your career is currently demanding of you. You're not abandoning other areas. You're just being honest with yourself about what actually needs the most of you right now in this season and making a conscious choice to prioritize it without feeling guilty or letting the other areas slip. So the question that you should ask yourself here is not how do I balance all of this? The question is, what are my real priorities right now? And are my days, my habits, my routines, are they actually reflecting that? If the answer is yes to this, yet there is still a disconnect, there is still burnout ensuing, then in this case, I would say the problem isn't what you're doing, but it's the energy behind it. It's how you're doing it. I think one of the most overlooked parts of this whole conversation, and honestly the one that took the longest for me to understand, is how you're doing what you're doing. Like, think about your day for a second. You wake up, you work out, you eat your meals, you push through your to-do list, you hit your steps, you do all the things. But ask yourself honestly, like, why are you doing them? Are you working out because you genuinely love what your body can do and what movement makes you feel? Or are you working out because you're scared of what happens to your body if you stop, if you rest? That makes you feel lazy, unproductive, or potentially gain weight. Are you eating the way that you eat because food feels like fuel and it actually makes you feel good and energized and clear? Or are you eating from a place of control, white knuckling your way through every meal, terrified that one wrong choice with your nutrition is going to cause you to lose all your progress? Are you pushing through your to-do list because you are genuinely excited about what you're building, what you're creating, what you're doing, how you're living? Or are you pushing through because somewhere underneath of all of that, you're afraid that if you slow down, if you pull back, it means that you're lazy, you're going to fall behind, or that you're not doing good enough? The distinction between those two things matters way more than most women realize. You're doing the same action, but one is from a place of trust in yourself, trust in your body, versus the other comes from a place of fear. And it produces completely different results in your body and your life. Fear is a physiological stress response. When you are operating from fear, even when the action looks identical on the outside, your body remains in that low-grade state of threat, of stress, where cortisol is elevated, your nervous system is stuck in that sympathetic dominant state, your body is in protection mode or survival mode, and that's not where fat loss happens. That's not where hormones are healthy. That's not where digestion is regular. That's not where you feel like the woman that you want to feel like. It holds on, it adapts, it fights against every effort that you're making to try to change it. So you can be doing all the right things with your workouts, your nutrition, your protocols, and still not be getting the results because the energy underneath what you're doing is working against you. The effort is real, but the foundation here is fear. And fear is that chronic stress that your body is trying to fight against on top of everything else that it's trying to hold. And I noticed this with myself before I started recovering. I was doing a lot of the same things, eating well, moving my body, but eventually something shifted in my why. And I would say that this was really right around when my dad passed away. Like I started to create a whole new meaning to life and taking care of my body for longevity, not just for like aesthetics. And not to say that aesthetics are wrong or bad, but living your whole life, especially living how you take care of your body from a place of fear. Your body is the most like precious resource that you have. It is all that you have. And so if you're not taking care of it from a place of trust and faith and, worth and respect, you're taking care of it from a place of fear and control and white knuckling and burnout, truthfully. That's just not it. So yeah, after my dad passed away, I would say I really started to shift away from or shift in being aware of how I was doing the things I was doing. It's not just what I was doing, but it's how I was doing it. And so what this could look like for you, because I don't just want to leave you with this like woo-woo concept, but what this could look like is like eating enough because you understand your body needs fuel to function, not because you earned it, not because you're quote unquote being good, but because it's just how bodies work and yours just deserves to be taken care of. It looks like choosing a workout because it genuinely serves you in the day. And some days that looks like going and doing a hard, sweaty workout. Some days that looks like going outside and taking a walk in the sunshine. It looks like giving yourself permission to rest without spending the whole day anxious about resting. It looks like making a choice about your food or your body from a place of what do I actually need right now instead of what am I allowed to have right now. Ultimately, what trust really builds with your body is a relationship with your body that isn't constantly at war with itself. And that pulls you out of that fight or flight. Also, something else that is really common is that I find with someone who feels like you're doing all the right things, but it's not getting you the results that you want. It's also that your instinct here is, if something's not working, to just add more workouts, more restriction, more tracking, more supplements, more. But sometimes the answer isn't more. Sometimes the answer is different. Different could mean stepping back from the thing that you've been white knuckling your way through and ask yourself, is this actually serving me? Different could mean eating more instead of less because your body's holding on to food for dear life and it needs to feel safe before it can start letting go of anything. It could mean moving in a way that feels more restorative instead of like punishment. It could mean getting actual data, getting the labs and the testing so you're not guessing and you can, start actually knowing what's going on inside of your body. The shift from more to different is a mindset shift. And again, it's a similar shift from not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it differently. It requires you to trust that pivoting isn't the same as you giving up. Pivoting isn't weakness. Pivoting isn't a lack of discipline. It is discipline. It requires you to believe that doing this sustainably gets you way further than doing it strictly. And for a lot of high achieving women, like that is the harder shift to make. That is the harder work here when it comes to burnout recovery. And I really want to be clear about something before I wrap this up, because I never want this conversation to come off as permission for you to coast. Nothing that I've said today is about lowering your standards or settling or giving up or deciding that the results you get don't matter. You can still be an ambitious, go-getting high achiever. You can still want to be lean and strong and fit and successful. That is not the problem here. The problem is when you can't tell the difference between healthy pushing and running yourself to the ground. The problem is when you've lost the ability to read your body's own signals because you've been overriding them for so long to the point where burnout has now become your new normal. The women I know who have the most sustainable success in their health, in their careers, in their lives, are the ones who have developed this self-awareness. They still push hard. They still have high standards, but they know when to push and when to pull back. They can read the difference between being tired because you've worked hard and being tired because something physiologically is wrong. And you've hit that glass ceiling. You've maxed out your capacity. And they trust that honoring that and giving themselves permission to rest when this is the case isn't lazy. It is the strategy. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't learn this by reading about it or even listening about it on a podcast like this. I learned it by burning out hard enough that my body took the choice away from me, that I had no other choice and no other option but to slow down, but to rest, but to heal, but to put other areas of my life on pause to do that. I learned it because I had to, and I'd love for you to learn it a different way, where you don't have to put the other areas on pause. You can still show up, be the high achiever, be ambitious, chase your goals, but do it in a way that's truly healthy. The goal is not to stop being ambitious. The goal is to be ambitious in a way that doesn't cost you your health, your hormones, your relationships, your joy, all those things. Because truthfully, what's the point of achieving everything on your vision board if you feel like garbage while you're doing it? Like, that's not true success. Burnout is your body's way of telling you that something here needs to shift. And that shift isn't about doing less. It's about doing differently. It's about rebuilding this capacity so you can carry all the things that you want to be able to do without your foundations cracking. It's getting aligned with what actually matters to you instead of chasing some definition of balance that doesn't exist, and moving from building a life out of fear to really trusting yourself and your body and developing the self-awareness to know what your body and your life actually need in each season. So if this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with someone that you know needs to hear it. Leave a review. It genuinely helps me and the podcast more than you know. I am so grateful for every single one of you. And if this is a conversation that you want to have on a deeper level, if you're sitting here thinking, okay, but where do I actually start with all of this? My DMs are always open. You can come find me, Instagram, message me. Let's talk about what's actually going on for you. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.